Hi, I'm Jon Bonifacio, 25-year-old climate and environmental activist based here in Metro Manila, Philippines. I'm the National Coordinator of Kalikasan People's Network for the Environment and former National Coordinator and Convener of Youth Advocates for Climate Action Philippines, or YACAP. My journey as a climate activist began when I discovered that my medical school in Manila would be underwater by the year 2050, which made me realize that we needed climate action here and now, made me drop out of school and pursue climate activism full-time. So when it comes to engaging the youth, I believe that as a youth climate activist, I do bring a fresh new voice here in the discussion. Part of the task is really making sure that fellow youth really see their potential when it comes to becoming a climate activist, when it comes to enacting change, since they are the future generation. Unfortunately, here in the Philippines, we do face a lot of challenges. One of them being the fact that activism in general is really looked down upon and stigmatized. And on top of that, particularly youth being vocal about different issues in the country is something that people look down upon. So I think it's important that institutions like UNICEF really help out the youth when it comes to these kinds of problems, really recognizing that it's important that we directly support the youth so that they can continue engaging with the communities that they wish to help out with. And on top of that, ensuring that the rights of young people when it comes to expressing themselves, when it comes to being vocal about issues in the country and in the world, is something that is protected and upheld in countries like the Philippines. Collective action means understanding that there's a real strength in numbers and really pushing for social changes and understanding that our approach really must be rooted in linking up with other people. When it comes to youth activism, it's really essential that we link up not just with other youth, but also with other sectors of society, because it's only through, again, collective action, we can really push for the dialogues, engaging with policymakers, different forms of action that we need to see in our society today. When it comes to engaging with communities, it's really important that we link up with other sectors of society, not just with other fellow youth. So, for example, in the work that I do in my organizations, part of the task is really to reach out to other sectors, to the small fisher folk, the small farmers, the urban poor who are experiencing the brunt of the climate crisis and who really understand the need for social action here and now. With my work in YACAP, we were able to mobilize lots of youth to really go to the communities that are being impacted the most when it comes to climate change. Really see how floods, how intense heat is really affecting the people, not just our fellow youth, but also the older generation in these marginalized communities. Some of the work that we were able to do was by mobilizing with a lot of different other communities, fisherfolk communities in particular. We were able to score dialogues with officials from the national government when it comes to the issues of reclamation and other projects that are impacting marine ecosystems in the Philippines. Some of the other work that we do in Kalikasan also shows how collective action really plays a part in putting a stop to illegal operations, for example, mining companies that are operating, again, illegally in different parts of the Philippines, where we were able to link up with the communities on the ground and really put pressure on these companies to put a stop to their operations. So it's really about linking up with other sectors of society, really understanding that the crisis we're experiencing is something that everybody experiences, especially when it comes to the climate crisis. That's what we really need to leverage, and that's what we really need to push for. And it really starts by understanding on our own capacity what we can do to link up with other people, to make sure that we listen to them and they also listen to us, and really work together towards pushing for the social changes that we need to see. It's stories like these that hope to inspire more and more people to engage in social action. But on top of that, they really serve as templates for further action when it comes to, again, pushing for the social changes we need to see in our society today. When it comes to the climate crisis in particular, headlines are always talking about the year 2050, 2030. Those are the deadlines, and those are exactly the years in which we'll be living through. So it's essential that young people get involved today and recognize that they do have the power, and it's important for us to really assert our position on the table and make spaces wherever we can, because, again, our future is at stake. All of our dreams and all of our hopes are really banking on a better future for all. So it's about time for us to really unite, talk to one another, talk to other sectors of society, and really push for the changes we need to see. As a youth climate activist, here are my top 3 tips for UNICEF so that they can continue supporting the work of young people on the ground. So tip number 1, institutions like UNICEF do have the power when it comes to providing direct support for young people who are doing community work and other forms of social action in places like the Philippines. So in my experience here in my country, one of the main challenges that a lot of youth groups are facing when it comes to pursuing their social advocacies is the fact that there are not enough resources for them to mobilize, to conduct their meetings, to really engage with policymakers. So it's really about providing these resources, I think, that a lot of the much needed action when it comes to addressing climate change can be done. And UNICEF definitely has a role to play in this development. So tip number 2 is providing opportunities for young people to engage more in the international spaces so that they can really bring their narratives and their stories from the ground to the people who need to hear them. So some of the work that we were able to do so far here in the Philippines includes engagement in conferences like the UNFCCC Conference of Parties every year, but definitely there can be more spaces and more avenues for young people to directly engage with policymakers at the global level so that global issues like the climate crisis can be more directly confronted. So tip number 3 is for institutions like UNICEF to work also in upholding the rights of young people to speak out and speak up about the different social issues that are impacting their community or their country. So for example, for climate and environmental activists here in the Philippines, it's extremely difficult because we do face attacks and harassment for our advocacy. It's in this way that institutions like UNICEF can directly ensure the safety and security of activists like myself, whether that's in the Philippines or in other parts of the world. By understanding the climate crisis at a personal or community level and recognizing the importance of acting collectively, we can start building that movement that we need that will really push for a sustainable and just future for all.